Jake G asks, what are your reactions on the Embiid and Harden pairing after one game? Should the rest of the league just give up now? There have been 2 games since this question was asked. Again, the podcast needed to be delayed. He also adds, based on Embiid saying that was probably the most wide open I've ever been in my career, I'd be nervous if I had to play them in a 7-game series. I mean, unless I'm the Hornets, then you just elite point God Mason Plumlee and sweep the series. Yeah, so I've been impressed with how easy it seems like Embiid and Harden are fitting together, and I've not looked at purposely, and I did not look at any on-off numbers or get into the nitty-gritty data. I just watched every action from the 2 games involving those two. You can run high screen and rolls to death with them, and I think that that's going to be devastating. There's going to clearly be maybe an adjustment with how Harden needs to pass to someone who's not a lob catcher. There was one instance, I think it was the Knicks game, where he just threw a pass that, Embiid's not going to finish it. He had to catch it and come back down, but he scored anyway. I also think it's going to help that having the pick and pop weapon at the 5 with Embiid. Harden didn't look uncomfortable throwing him passes, and I think it forces the defenses to think more, just because no, Joel Embiid is not this traditional roll man threat, but because he has so many ball skills and can stop on a dime and shoot, there are more things that they have to plan against, even if you're not worried about him finishing lobs. And I think we saw that to an extent. I don't really want to use the Knicks game as an example because they're fucking clueless. They have just watching them trying to defend Harden, Embiid pick and rolls with Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson on the court at the same time was actually painful. My eyes are still sort of bleeding from it. But you look at sort of the Timberwolves game, and there were a couple spots where Harden was able to probably deliver the ball a little bit earlier to Embiid than he would with other bigs, because you can trust, again, that he's either going to pause and shoot or he can put the ball on the floor. That's not something a Clint Capella or a Dwight Howard, at least the Dwight Howard in Houston, was ever going to do. And I don't want to say spares Harden energy, but if he's able to deliver the ball earlier, it doesn't even have to get going downhill before he's throwing some of these passes to Embiid. It makes his job a lot easier than it's ever been. I think that this is more of an organic pairing than people were crediting. Embiid's already done a good job of sort of tethering himself to Harden when Harden's bringing the ball up. And so perhaps you're not seeing moving forward as many from scratch touches from Embiid when he's on the court with Harden. That's ultimately fine. The workload that Embiid had to carry for most of this year was arguably too heavy anyway. He was the fulcrum of both the offense and the defense for Philly. You're still going to have minutes where you only have one of them on the court to begin with. So he's still going to get those types of touches. I like the way that this pairing has looked so far. And I think Matisse Thybulle might be the teammate in Philly that benefits the most from this. Just the way defenses have been losing him when he's hanging around the dunker spot, or if he can cut to the basket. Tyrese Maxey will probably benefit as well with some leak outs in transition. You can say the same for Thybulle. And I've been kind of impressed. I would need to check like the average possession time numbers on this. I've been impressed with the number of leak outs, at least, that Philly has tried, or that they don't seem that they're bogging down too much in the open floor after misses. They're not looking to blitz it, but like this isn't something that's coming to a slow grinding pause. I will say that the free throw parade is real, and it might be at times unwatchable. It's going to be incredibly effective though. And so when you look at sort of the landscape of the Eastern Conference, I don't know where you should put Philly in the pecking order of title contenders. There's so many things that matter here. We're only 2 games at this recording into the Harden Embiid era together. So I don't want to make any just profound conclusions. They're there though, and I would put them ahead of the Nets in the title hierarchy. I don't know that I trust the Bulls in the playoffs just yet. I need to see it, and there are people done great breakdowns of the Bulls, what DeMar DeRozan has done, what their defense can be like at full strength. I would assume has been huge from them. Zach LaVine is just, his offense is so scalable when he's on. There's something about them. It just makes me wonder whether their offense is dynamic enough to weather the storm of the playoffs. Maybe Vucevic is sort of a connective passer for them, goes a long way, and he's quietly played a lot better over the past, I don't know, month and a half or whatever it's been. But I would put the Sixers ahead of them. I'd still take the Bucks over Philly. I'd take Philly over the Nets. Miami, I'd probably take over Philly at this point. Those are the 2 teams though that I'm only guaranteed to take over Philly right now. If you're looking at Toronto, Boston, Cleveland, Chicago, those are all up in the air. And Brooklyn, I'm just ready to pencil out of the title contention rate. We can use the ifs and ifs and ifs. If this happens, if Kevin Durant's healthy, if Kyrie Irving's playing every game, if and when Ben Simmons plays, at some point there's too many ifs here. There's just too many uncertainties, and they have to start. They're not going to tank, but they don't control their own pick this year. But you do have to start thinking, okay, this is more of a 2022, 2023 team if that, because what happens with Kyrie Irving's free agency because he has a player option. Overall, though, I really do like what Embiid and Harden seem like they're going to become. And I do think that the whole can Harden accept that this is Embiid's team and it's sort of just a lateral move from his status in Brooklyn, where that was already going to be Kevin Durant's team, or people comparing it to Kevin Durant arriving in Golden State and finding that he was never going to be as popular as Steph Curry. I don't think Harden was under the illusion that this was ever going to be his team. I actually fully believe, I don't care what people say, because there might have still been problems and awkwardness behind the scenes. Maybe James Harden and Kyrie Irving just never vibed, including from last season. I could buy into that. If Kyrie Irving plays this year, is available to play every single game, we're probably not talking about James Harden becoming a malcontent. And so he remains the one to me that's upended Brooklyn season more than anyone else.